Hello, and welcome to another episode of Gameworms. I'm your host, Reil, and today we're going to be discussing our fishy friends at the Universities of Jol-Nar. And just to be clear, Jol-Nar is not the name of our fishy friends. It's actually their two ocean planets, Jol and Nar, just kind of slammed together. The race themselves, the fish people, are actually called Hylar, and there's many types of Hylar. I don't really know if they're technically all the same species, but they're fishy folks. Some are amphibious, so they can come out and live on land without too many problems. Others are completely aquatic, so have to live in tanks when they're flying around space and stuff like that. But unlike most of the other races, even we humans, initially involved evolution was initially a physical, becoming tougher, stronger, faster, and more able to survive physically. Whereas the Hylar seems to evolve, their focus was much earlier than humans, focused on tools and using the environment. So they're very intelligent and crafty, but physically weak compared to the other races. Interesting things about them is that in the Twilight Wars, so at the end of the long reign of the Lazax over the galaxy, the Jol-Nar was one of the three factions that kind of pulled out first. It was the Federation of Sol, the Barony of Letnev, and the University of Jol-Nar kind of pulled out of the Galactic Council that had been formed by the Lazax. And the reason that affected everybody so much is because a lot of the technology, like the programming languages, chemical compounds, and engineering knowledge had come from the Jol-Nar. And so once they kind of pulled out and started receding, kind of becoming more solitary, people could no longer repair their ships and computers and things like that. So technology started to dwindle, especially after the war and everybody's kind of moving off to their own sectors of the galaxy. They started losing all this technology. And the Jol-Nar didn't fare super well either, because even though they had the knowledge, they now lacked a lot of the protection, the income, and a lot of the resources that they'd been getting from these other factions. And so that was a big part of the decline, though, for many of the factions, was the loss of the Jol-Nar knowledge about the technology that they were using. Anyhow, they're known as to be kind of snobby and condescending. That doesn't mean they can't have good relations with the other factions. For example, everybody knows this well-known daughter of one of the Jol-Nar ministers with one of the Federation of Sol ambassadors. But they can be a little haughty and condescending. They value knowledge a lot more than physical acumen, as can be seen in even how they teach their children.
Let's name the zones, the zones, the zones. Let's name the zones of the open sea. Magic, mystical, magic, physical, magic. All the rest are too deep for you and me to see.
So a lot of their life is focused on just learning and engineering and knowledge and maths and sciences and all sorts of things. So how does this apply to Twilight Imperium, the game, mechanically speaking? The Jol-Nar are led by a council called the Circle of Regents. And their leader is referred to as the headmaster, I guess hence the University of Jol-Nar, because again, so much of their culture is focused on learning and education. As one might expect, mechanically, the focus on the University of Jol-Nar is a lot of technology. So they actually start with 4 technologies, so more than any other faction, and they start with one of each color. So they have prerequisites for pretty much everything, just right out of the gate. Their starting fleet is pretty good. They start with a dreadnought, 2 carriers, a fighter. One fighter is not a big deal, but when you have the dreadnought in there, they have a space dock. They start with 2 PDS, so pretty well defended system. The only problem is they only have 2 infantry. So if you can't come up with a way to solve that problem in the first round, regardless of all the 3 capacity ships, but only 2 infantry, your expansion is going to be pretty slow in the first round unless you can figure out how to get more infantry. Alright, let's take a look at their faction abilities. So they actually have a negative ability, so they're fragile. So even though these are the brains of the galaxy, they're also the 98-pound weaklings of the galaxy, and they get a -1 to all unit combat rolls. They are, however, brilliant. So when you spend a command token to resolve the secondary ability of the technology strategy card, you may resolve the primary ability instead. So this means as long as you're confident somebody's going to take the technology card, you don't really need to worry about taking it as long as you have enough command tokens in your strategy pool. Because you still have to spend that strategy token to activate the secondary, but then you get the free technology from the primary as well as the ability to buy a second one. So that's pretty good. Analytical. When you research a technology that is not a unit upgrade technology, you may ignore one prerequisite. That's pretty huge. You're jumping ahead. So this won't apply to things, unit upgrades. Like this won't apply to getting your 3 reds you need for your War Sun or anything. But like this means you're getting the high level technologies like fleet logistics, light wave deflectors, things like that a lot earlier than other people can. And you already have such an advantage on research. So University of Jol-Nar are just out of the gate huge on developing tech. And they used to be considered pretty overpowerful in TI4 for this very reason, because there were so many tech-based objectives that it was really easy. If a tech-based objective comes up, they're going to get it. And because there were so many, or such a high percentage of them in the original game, they were considered kind of overpowered to a lot of people. But with the update to Prophecy of Kings, a lot of new secret objectives have been added. Not secret, well, also secret objectives. But a lot of new objectives have been added to the objectives deck that are not tech-based, so it kind of thinned out the percentage there. So I don't know how that balances out their overall victory capabilities, but it has kind of balanced out a little bit where you're not just pulling up text all the time. Okay, so let's take a look at what they've got mechanically speaking. So again, no special units, except they're worse than the normal units because they all get a penalty. They're all terrible shots. All right, but their flagship is the JNS Hylar. When making a combat roll for this ship, each result of 9 or 10 before applying modifiers produces 2 additional hits. So this ship hits on a 6+ already with 2 dice, but every 9 or 10 is actually counting as 3 hits instead of 1. So that's pretty amazing. It's an otherwise unremarkable ship. Its cost, move capacity are normal, but for guys that are so weak in every other capacity, a combat capacity, they really focused a lot of their good guns on that flagship there. Now let's take a look at their mech. Shield Paling. Their infantry on this planet are not affected by your fragile faction ability. So, yeah, you throw a mech down with your infantry and they can fight normally. So good. Alright. I mean, it's not blowing me out of the water, but it makes up for a little bit of problems. Let's take a look at their special faction technologies. So first they have the Spatial Conduit Cylinder. You may exhaust this card after you activate a system that contains 1 or more of your units. That system is adjacent to all other systems that contain 1 or more of your units during this activation. So basically this is practically as good as any of the Ghosts of Creus wormhole abilities. I think it applies maybe differently because this only applies to systems that you have units in, but still, once per round, because you have to exhaust it, you can just, basically anywhere you have a unit is connected by wormholes, essentially. So pretty good for moving around if you need to. The other one is E-Res Siphons. After another player activates a system that contains 1 or more of your ships, gain 4 trade goods. I don't know if I'd go out of my way for that unless you're really starving for resources. I'd go for Spatial Conduits probably before that, but yeah, a little, make a buck. If you're in a particularly poor section of the galaxy, maybe that'll come in handy. But yeah, let's take a look at the leaders here. So the agent is Dr. Sukaban, the head of medical R&D. When a player spends resources to research, and of course, as with all agents, this includes you, but people could bribe you to use it on their behalf. You may exhaust this card to allow that player to remove any number of their infantry from the game board. For each unit removed, reduce the resources spent by 1. Now, of course, you're only starting with 2 infantry, so probably not a good idea to be throwing this out in the first round when you don't have the people to spare. But you know what? Might not be a bad bribe for somebody else in that round 1 who wants to get a tech, but maybe he's a little bit short. I think that's really common, to be honest with you. So yeah, it should be quite saleable in the first round when somebody plays tech, even if you don't have the infantry to do it yourself. I mean, of course, you can just do the primary anyway if somebody else plays tech. All right, let's take a look at the commander. It is Tazern, the Deep Rot Visionary. After you roll dice for a unit ability, you may reroll any of those dice. So, I guess your anti-fighter barrage or bombardments. I don't think this is going to be your most useful. I mean, I guess it helps mitigate your poor die rolls to begin with, but, you know, as far as commanders go, I can't see people scrambling to get your alliance card. Well, let's take a look at the hero. Genetic memory. Oh, sorry, the person's name. Rin, the Master's Legacy. Perfected being. Genetic memories. I keep doing that wrong in the other videos, because it's got like, the hero's got like the name of the hero on one side, and then like what it is on the other side. So this is genetic memory. Action. For each non-unit upgrade technology you own, you may replace that technology with any technology of the same color from the deck. Then purge this card. And I think that's brilliant, because there's like a lot of the high level... I have a tech... Wait, where's my tech deck? Oh, yeah, there's a tech deck right here. So, for example, you could... Let's say you have gravity drive and you feel like... Or let's say you have dark energy tap and you got that at the beginning of the game and there's really nothing left to explore. Trade that in for light wave deflectors, right? Or let's say you have Megan Defense Grid and you upgrade that for, I don't know what the high level reds are. Oh, assault cannons, whatever. So getting rid of some of your more useless techs or techs that have become defunct, upgrade them right up. So that's pretty cool. All right. Last thing I want to talk about with these guys is their research agreement, and I think this is a pretty good one. After the Jol-Nar player researches a technology that is not a faction technology, gain that technology. Then return this card to the Jol-Nar player. Now, I would double check into this because it says researches, so I don't know if the genetic memory hero action would count here. I don't know. I have to look into that. But still, like, you just get this from the Jol-Nar, wait for them to research something that you're dying to get, and they get so much, you're going to get something eventually that you really want. Just use that for a free tech. So that's pretty good. All right, pretty quick discussion there today. Just this anthem today, I'm pretty sure will be fine with copyright, but I do credit and link the anthem in the description of the video. But I'll just ask everybody to please rise and put your hands over your heart for the Jol-Nar anthem.
Build up of static is caused by friction. Only electrons move, don't let that catch you out. Remember the basics, the same charges repel, but different charges suit each other very well. Current is amperes, potential difference is volts, resistance is ohms, and charge is coulombs. Time is in minutes in physics, it's measured in seconds. Work done, it's just energy transferred in joules. Current only flows in one direction through a diode. LEDs emit light, they're used in remote controls. An LDR is just a resistor that's dependent on light. They're used in burglar detectors and automatic night lights. Current is amperes, potential difference is volts, resistance is ohms, and charge is coulombs. Time is in minutes in physics, it's measured in seconds. Work done, it's just energy transferred in joules. You're gonna need to learn the circuit symbols, but I don't know how to sing them in a song. So you're gonna need to learn them on your own. So off you go and take some notes. Current Current is amperes, potential difference is volts. Resistance is ohms, and charge is coulombs. Time isn't minutes in physics, it's measured in seconds. Work done, it's just energy transferred in joules. In joules.